Hi, and welcome to the third Levathia Bound devlog. It's been a while, so let's get to it. Over the past month and a bit, I've done quite a bit. 19 new rooms, 2 new mini-bosses, work on the narrative, actual room transitions, a control remapper, and a new particle setup. We'll get to looking at a bit of it, but I don't want to be too forthcoming with the rooms, or the mini-bosses, or the narrative. I've got to leave some, or really most, of the game for you guys to play, right? At the beginning here too, I wanted to see if anyone would be interested in a Discord server for the game. Leave your thoughts in the comments. It's just for a bit more low-effort discussion and screenshottage of Levathia. Anyway, let's talk about some of the ideas behind the new rooms and mini-bosses and all. I've divided the game into 4 arcs kind of in my head. I finished the first one, and I'm getting well into the second. The first arc is mostly about the general atmosphere of the castle and a setup of the kind of existing situation. I really wanted to communicate the loneliness, the desolation of the castle, and a bit of the past of it. I was having a bit of frustration in communicating the loneliness without being too explicit about it, but I found something I think helps massively, and it was just adding some dust particles to the game. I'll get more into the particle system later, but suffice to say, a castle that's been unoccupied for a bit would certainly be quite dusty. I also added a few more props to the areas, some music, and honestly, it looks pretty good now. In the second arc, I wanted to enable the player to use their knowledge of the castle to act upon it. I'm trying to channel my kind of Zelda instincts here with puzzles that depend upon spatial reasoning with the world's general state, the way things are moved around, and so on. You can think of the way in Breath of the Wild, bad example really, but the way you have to move the elephant's trunk in order to spray water on a certain area. Now this is certainly harder to do in 2D, side-scrolling 2D, and leads to a bit less deep puzzles, but I think I can still make it interesting. For example, one here includes these platforms that you can see, with perhaps an errant creature roaming around or a bit of water. Others, though, I haven't gotten the game yet. The game's kind of leading to a sort of prison, jail area, and I'm going to dive much deeper into this kind of world-state puzzle idea there. That's probably enough of Toy Around spoiling too much. We'll get into the new particle stuff. They're kind of subtle, aren't they? Unlike many of the other particles in the game, these aren't individually sprited. They don't have specific use cases, and they're not very special. They're just single particles with color, but this lets me use them in much larger quantities. The first use I had is what you're seeing here. Each room has a particle spawning system that'll spawn a bunch of these particles randomly, as if dust was catching light in front of you. Perhaps more fun, the player's movement will also kick these particles up into the air. I may also add this system of kicking up particles to a few enemies, though I don't want it to become distracting. The particles are semi-interactable as well. The player generates a wind field around them. Again, something I could use for enemies if it's not too much a distraction. I probably went a little bit extra on the wind field. It's generated by this function. Basically, the X component gets highest right in front of the player, the side-to-side motion of the particle, and then decays down as you go up or down. The Y movement of the particle, up or down, is just X times Y, which together creates these kind of fun vortices. This all rotates to face the direction the player is moving, and the field looks like this. I made this little visualizer to help debug, but it looks pretty cool, so I thought I would show you all. All in all, I'm really happy with it, and it really makes the game feel more alive. The room transitions are a bit less exciting, and I don't want you to get too attached to them. They probably will change again. Right now, they're kind of Super Metroid-like in that they move separately along the X and Y axis, and it can be a little jarring. Certainly less nice than smooth movement between the rooms. I did it this way because I wanted to make sure that I didn't show any kind of corners of other rooms or outside area when it's not supposed to be there. It avoids some edge cases and spoilers, but again, it doesn't quite look as nice as I want. I'm considering just being a little bit more particular and adding black panels to cover up things I don't want the player to see, but that would be a more heavy solution. It would take more development time. With this, it's really simple, but everything's kind of a trade-off. Either way, it's nice to have a real transition and not just a pop between the rooms. Finally, I made a control remapper for the game. Obviously super important for accessibility, so I'm really excited to have gotten it in-game. It accepts keyboard and gamepad mapping separately, and allows you to use both interchangeably in-game. It also keeps track of whether you last used keyboard or gamepad, and shows the current key hint when approaching interactable objects or obtaining items as such. While a bit annoying to put together and painfully manual, this hinting system I think will really help players get into the game, or at least I hope. The menu for this is also a scrolling menu, the first of its kind in the game, and I pray I do not need a second. UI code kind of sucks. I think that wraps it up. That's all of the progress since last time. I'm going to be feeling out different ways to show development without spoiling too much over the next two devlogs. Though I am going to be doing a small rework of combat this coming week, so that'll be good spoiler-free content that I don't have to think too much about. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed the devlog. If you want to keep updated on the game, subscribe here and follow me on Twitter. Thanks for watching.